Chapter 4, Quick Hits, Economy and the Family. Hey, if you've listened to anything in the last several months, you've probably heard a lot about economy. And I want you to know that economy matters. And so when you're getting into family science, you're going to have to think of bigger world issues as well as the family. So one issue is, stop, buddy. One issue is how does the economy affect the family? And you need to know that just like family has changed, economy changes as well. And so, we have become a deindustrialized society. We are not as industrial as we once were. You see a lot of industry closing. We have seen a spread of investment and trade and technology and communication and production and all of those things across the world, which we call globalization. We have seen a lot of offshoring or American companies sending work and jobs to other countries to cut their cost here. And so there are a lot of ways that economy has changed, and it's going to continue to change. We also have to think about things like wealth and how that might affect the family. Y'all have to know that the top 3% of Americans control 54% of the wealth in our country, and the bottom 90% control only 25% of the wealth. There's a big gap there. What that means for families is that the wealthiest families are continuing to get wealthier. Poorest families are continuing to get poorer, and our lowest classes are barely surviving. And our middle class is shrinking. Our middle class is shrinking. It's been shrinking for a while. It's going to, I believe, continue to shrink, and that's due to a lot of different variables. But the reality is we have a gap in wealth, and there is a discrepancy there. When we start looking at racial gaps, that discrepancy becomes even more clear and maybe even a little more frightening, especially when you look at the racial wealth gap between our three largest racial groups. White Americans control far more of our wealth than both Black Americans and Latino Hispanic Americans. I would look at figure 4.2 to understand that racial gap and how it's continuing to rise. So how does the economy affect families? Well, things like unemployment, especially now in this time, we've seen a lot of people laid off. Income is hard to come by. What does that mean for putting food on the table, for being able to afford a place to live, those types of things? You need to know the definitions of poverty, absolute poverty, relative poverty, the threshold, those types of definitions. Make sure that you understand those, because we have people living in poverty. In fact, what's really, really scary is when we look at different types of family structure, we see higher rates of poverty. So only 5.1% of families who are married couple families are living in poverty, but 26.6% of families who are single mother families are living in poverty. So there's an effect there on families. Of course, homelessness could be a result of poverty and unemployment as well. You also need to know that we live in a time where marital roles have shifted, family work roles have shifted, and we have more two-parent income families. We have more women in the workforce, and so what we do with our children at home, before and after school, all of that is affected by the economy. For example, Lisa and I both work, and we have to both work in order to make ends meet um, as a family. And this pandemic that we're in has caused a lot of issues for what are we going to do, because we both have to work in order to afford to live, but we also have our children now who are going to be home 3 days a week from school. How are we going to take care of them? And so there's a lot for us to think about as we are uh, being family, and a lot of it is directly tied to the economy. So those are some quick hits for chapter 4. Keep reading that chapter. Make sure that you know all of the highlighted concepts, and I will see you later.